This is Pastor Bob, and you are riding in a car with me. Thanks for joining me today. It's good to have you here. I just want to share some things with you that are from my heart. And we've been doing this series now for a while, and I've really enjoyed just driving and talking. I hope you're enjoying it too. Once again, this series is a little different than Pastor Bob Daily in that I take a little more time to talk about some things that I really feel like need a little more time. So sit down and relax, and let's talk, and we'll drive together. My grandfather had a favorite sermon, and he was an itinerant pastor, which means that he pastored more than one church at a time. And he and his family were very poor. He would drive from one church to another to another. I think at one time he had 3 or 4 churches at a time. And they were all too poor to afford a pastor, but they all kind of pooled their money, and they were able to help support him. But my mom tells stories of, sometimes when there was no food in the house, even though, he was pastoring many churches, and sometimes somebody would just come to the door with some food, and they'd all of a sudden have food to eat. So they lived very poorly, but God took care of them all the way along. What a great testimony, huh? But one of his favorite sermons, and I have the original copy of it, and it means a lot to me, it's called, "What Is That in Your Hands?" And I've copied that sermon many times since I received it. And I remember as a boy sitting and watching him preach whenever we would visit. And I used to love to do that. And I think he was a great speaker and just a really great man, great heart. But he did this sermon, "What is that in your hands?" And he's basically talking about Aaron and talking about, what has God given you? What's in your hands? Use that. God's about to provide a miracle. But folks, all of us have something in our hands. All of us have something that God has given us that he wants to use. The problem is identifying it sometimes. Last week we talked about, are you an optimist or a pessimist? We talked about, moving forward and dreaming your dreams and not letting anything stop you. We talked about, clinging to them, relying on them, trusting in them, believing in them, moving forward. But many of you say, well, that's all really great, but what if you don't know what's there? Good question. And it's really hard to move forward with something if you don't know what to move forward with. So let's talk about that today. What is that in your hands? So let's start there. Every one of you have something in your hand, whatever it is. You say, well, I'm not good at anything. Yeah, you are. Some of you are guitar players. Some of you are singers. Some of you have the gift of serving. You make a difference in people's lives just by being there with them. Some of you are teachers. You have a gift of showing people how to do things. Whatever it might be. We can start with spiritual gifts. And the Bible kind of defines 7 of them primarily. Let's start there. And I will try to remember all 7 as I'm driving. First of all we were just talking about that, the gift of serving. This is a person who loves to serve others. And this is where their big reward comes, when they're able to do things for other people. And I love these people in the body of Christ. They're the ones that really bless me so much, and bless you too. They're behind the scenes. They do things sometimes when nobody's looking. And they're not there to necessarily be noticed, although they need to be, they need to make sure that you appreciate them. And that's part of that anybody has that desire. But they're serving. Then there are the givers. And people who give, usually it's financial. And they're usually people that have kind of a knack for finances. Some people are better with finances than others. And people that really have a true gift of giving usually have a real knack with finances as well. They're good at saving money. They're good at budgeting money. They're good at coming up with ways of expanding and extending and investing and all of that. Those are the givers. Then we have the gift of administration. Those people that are able to see the bigger picture and organize others to meet the need. And these people are great, and I've had this gift for a long time. You just see what needs to be done, and you know the talents of those people around you, and you kind of organize everybody together for a common goal. Pretty fun. And then we have the gift of encouragement. That one we don't have to talk about a whole lot. That's the person that comes up and encourages you and says, you can do it. I know you can. I believe in you. Then we have exhortation. An exhorter is an encouragement, but a person who isn't afraid to put you in your place at the same time. It's kind of an important gift, isn't it? And then we have the gift of mercy. That's an important one. This is the person that comes along when you sin and says, please don't feel bad. I've done this same thing myself before. And they understand, and they're right there for you. And, they're that person that will always go the extra mile with you. And they'll love you, and they'll have mercy with you. They don't judge you. Isn't it great there are so many different kinds of people in the body of Christ? Well, you can imagine that each one of these people have a little different personality. Each one of them have a little different way of looking at the world, and different talents and different priorities. And all of them have something to give. God, first of all, gave us spiritual gifts for that reason, because He wants us to use it with other people to enrich their lives. Another one of the gifts is teaching. I love that gift. And we use those people all the time. I'm not a real good teacher. Now, I like sharing. I like talking from my heart. But a teacher has most of their joy in the research. You see them sitting out on a table with 10 books open, and they're tearing into it, and they study for 5 hours, and you say, what have you been studying? And they give you the 3 words they've been studying from the Bible. They just dig in. And when you hear them talk, they explain the original Greek, the original Hebrew. They explain what was happening during the time. They give you this verse in the context of other verses as well. They're that kind of person, which is tremendous. But you see how different all these people are from each other as we talk about their spiritual gifts? Very different. And yet all so important. Now, all of them can look around and say, I don't think I have anything in my hands. And yet you can see that all of them do. Now, if you're comparing them to people who are, we call them world changers, and that's a bad term. But those people that are in the spotlight that seem to accomplish things so everybody else notices, that's really not what we're talking about. We're talking about what is in your hand. A lot of people may notice, some only another person or another few people might notice, but there is something in your hands that God has given you to use, something in your hands that will help other people, something in your hands that you can believe in, trust in, cling to, rely on, and move forward. I I just gave you some examples of spiritual gifts. I'm sure every one of you found yourself in one of those. That's where you start. Why did God give you spiritual gifts? Well, because He gave you a place to stand. And He put something in your hands. And that's where you start. So folks, it's really a matter of discovery. If I'm a teacher, what do I have to give? Some people say, well, I just really enjoy studying, but I've never really thought of teaching. Any good teacher is first of all somebody who enjoys learning. You may not have put that together before, but that's a really important distinction. And it's because of your gift for learning that you have your gift for teaching. We have others that say, well, I like to serve people, but I don't know how to organize all that. I don't know how to get it going. Well, that may not be your job. You may be the person that serves, and somebody else whose job it is to organize puts it together. You may be one of those who has a real heart for people. I work with the homeless, and my heart breaks every time I go down there. And some of these guys who are, streetwise and a little rough around the edges, I hug every one of them. And they get to the point where they come and hug me first. And they're not hugging kind of people. But they need that, and they know that we have that kind of relationship. And they know that I will give them mercy and encouragement. And they need it. And it's a very simple thing to simply do that. And it's honestly one of the things that God has put in my hand to bless people and to use my gifts for them and for their needs. So whatever it might be, these are something that we need to think about. And folks, let me encourage you today that your hands are not empty. You have in your hands something that could change people's lives. You say, well, I'm not that important. I don't have that much. I struggle with things myself, and of course we all do. I'm still amazed that God ever uses me. But that's not the point. The point is that He gave you something in your hands. And He says, because I gave it to you, it's significant. And because I gave it to you, it'll be a blessing to others and to you. So that's important, that you use it and that you realize that God has given you something and move forward with it. Well, I hope you do. Be encouraged by that and get going. I'm almost home, so I'll sign off. God bless you. Have a great day.